Good morning, everyone. This is Jeffy Kennedy, author of Epic Fantasy Romance. I'm here with my first cup of coffee. Delicious. Today is Tuesday, October 4th. And if you're on video, you'll see that I'm in kind of winter mode here out in the secret garden. It's a stormy morning. We got a drenching rain last night, chilly afternoon yesterday. Um, Definitely the weather has shifted. Also, if you're on video, you may or may not be able to see the crabapple tree behind me is just laden with fruit. It's been an unusual year that way. We've had some plants have big bursts of seed. I guess that's what happens after years of drought and then a couple years of monsoon. Everything's like, produce seeds now. So, yeah, just delightful here. Let's see. So, I have a few things today. Uh, I started, you will see alert readers, alert listeners will note that the image on the podcast is of Jack and Stella. I have started the Sugar Plum Holiday Novella, working title, although I should be careful about doing that because then Grace Draven will tell me that I have to make that be the actual title, as is her wont. My chair cushion is pretty wet here. um, but seriously, I can't call it Sugar Plum Holiday Novella. Can I? No, I can't. Anyway, so I did start it yesterday. I mean, I only got like 1340 words, but now I'm starting to get the rhythm of it. And thank you for the nice thoughts, all of you who commented, sent me notes. It's yeah, I think it's going to be perfectly fine for it to be like totally wedding drama and not much else conflict for once. And yeah, maybe that'll write pretty quickly. I can get that done in a couple of weeks. So feeling good about that. Um, and then, so I hope that you are all accustomed to semi random content here at First Cup of Coffee, where we talk about everything that we might chat about over coffee. But I wanted to tell you all this is random beauty tip. Okay, so one of the outcomes of the pandemic has been, and it's partly the fault of all of you who wanted video on the podcast, uh, is doing video on the podcast, being in video meetings so much more than I used to, that I started wearing makeup every day again, which I didn't do before because I worked from home and why would I put on makeup? Which also had become something of a blockade for me for leaving the house because a lot of times I would feel like, oh, I didn't want to run out and do something because I would have to get fixed up to do it. Um, Not, I don't always feel that way. Sometimes I go out without makeup, but there were times when it was like I was so skeezy. Should I admit that? That it's like, no, I would really have to go to some lengths to make myself socially acceptable, and I wouldn't want to. So, started wearing makeup uh, pretty much every day. Not Wednesdays. I usually don't, since that's my blog day, and I give my skin a rest. But started wearing foundation again. Um, a lot of times I wore only sunscreen before that. But anyway, this led to, as these things do, one thing leads to another, as the saying goes, that I needed makeup remover, right? And so, okay, so I'm a princess, and not everyone understands what I mean when I say that. It turns out, like, for 20 years, I've been saying this, and my husband didn't know what I meant by it. He's like, I hear you saying that, but I don't know what you mean. And it's like, I have a princess skin. I don't know if I would feel the pee through the 20 mattresses, but put something that's not gold against my skin, or put anything that's like got caustic chemicals on my skin. And no, no, no. So had was sort of casting about for what would be a good makeup remover, because a lot of makeup removers just irritate my skin. And so for a long time I was using um like the mineral spirit stuff. Not That's probably not what I mean. Cold cream. Cold cream, that's it. I was using cold cream, and then, well, I was trying to look up this name and I can't find it now. Um, but I had like these little tiny kind of white heads under the surface of my skin. And a gal who gave me a facial told me what they were called. And she said, it's not really acne, but they won't come out on their own. And and I was noticing I was getting more of those, and also getting a couple of styes around my eyes, and some roughness on my skin, like on the cheeks and so forth. And so I switched to like this Neutrogena cleanser. I'm trying to remember what she called it. I thought she said it was like Marcone, something like that. Um, but I just tried Googling that and it didn't come up. So I even tried Googling like types of whiteheads and it didn't come up. So we will never know unless randomly remember, which could happen. Anyway, used the Neutrogena for a while, and I was noticing that that my skin was not doing well. So, I sort of went on the what did we do before we could Google things, did some research on best kinds of makeup removers. And I hit upon micellar water, which I'd not heard of before. So here is my non sponsored pimpage. So I got this stuff, Bioderm, Sensabio H2O, micellar water makeup remover for sensitive skin. They don't say for princess skin, because I think, when I tell people I'm a princess, they think that that means that I'm like, I don't know, a diva, and that I have to have people wait on me all the time and buy me presents, which if only. But no, I would probably enjoy being that sort of princess, but not my lot in life. Anyway, this stuff, you guys, you all, damn it, you all, this stuff is so great. And it looks like, it looks like water. It looks like a bottle of water. And I would never have believed that this would actually remove makeup. And it's amazing. And I only started using it like a week ago. And already these little whitehead things are disappearing. And these kind of rough areas on my skin are smoothing out. And I am a convert. So that is why we are having the makeup tips, beauty tips portion of First Cup of Coffee today. I apologize to my male audience, although, guys, even if, like if you use sunscreen, something like that, you need to remove it, you should try this stuff, because it, it's not like creamy girly, and it's very fresh feeling, and it is the bomb. So there you have it. This is like one-stop shopping here. I swear. Uh, I have friends who do like writing podcasts, and they're so organized. Like Leslie Penelope. Like with her, what I'm reading and her best thing of the week, and all this thing, and it's like here it's like totally random. But the other thing I wanted to tell you about was I was having an interesting conversation with a friend of mine yesterday. Male reader and aspiring writer, and he has been listening to the audiobook of Bright Familiar, because he says he's a slow reader and it's easier for him to listen on audio, which is great. This is why we have audiobooks, right? But he mentioned that, and this is so funny because I have had so many men say something to me along these lines where they will say that they love my books for the plot and they read them for the plot. And one guy came up to me after a panel that was, and I've talked about this before, but that was a panel specifically on why sex scenes are not gratuitous. And we spent like an hour talking about the important emotional changes that occur during sex scenes and the character transformation and the changes in like intimacy and vulnerability and so forth, and how that you shouldn't skip the sex scenes because that stuff is in there. And this guy, not the one I'm talking about that I was talking to you yesterday, but like this rando guy at a conference came up to me and he said, he says, you know, I love reading your books. He says, but I read them for the plot and I skip the pornography. It's like, I literally just spent an hour telling you why you shouldn't skip the pornography. I don't understand how people think that you are not going to be offended by this sort of thing. I think I didn't tell you all, too. This is a slight diversion, but at Worldcon, when I was signing books, there was this young woman who was volunteering, you know, sort of assisting with the author wrangling. And during a lull, but let's be fair, it was mostly a lull. They had us like down in the basement where the dealer's room was. And, you know, I had, I don't know, 10 people come by, but it was like not far from a steady stream. And so this gal came over and she was looking at my books and she was looking at the Orchid Throne. And she was clearly intrigued but torn. And she said, I don't know. She says, this is the kind of book that looks like it could be really good or it could be schlock. I can't tell. So, you know, I feel like these could be my taglines, right? Hashtag skip the pornography. Hashtag could be schlock. I was so bemused by that. I was like, I do not know what to tell you. I'm going to go with not schlock, but probably not schlock. Certainly don't try to write schlock. Socially awkward people. So anyway, I was talking to this friend of mine yesterday who was listening to the audiobook, and he said that it was slower going for him with the audiobook, or somewhat difficult, because that when he reads on paper that he skips the sex scenes, and that's harder to do on the audiobook. You know, and so like as he's telling me this, I'm like trying not to roll my eyes. And oh, storage on this device, yeah, okay. My laptop keeps filling up with storage. I need to delete some things. Sorry, just got an alert. So he I'm trying not to roll my eyes at this, but he continues, because he does like my books and does like my writing and likes the story. And he said the thing is for him that in the sex scenes he can enjoy the writing and the story, but that it's not a turn on for him. That for him, like seeing visual stuff is more of a turn on, but reading it just is not erotic, not exciting. And I thought, well, you know, and replied, and we were doing this like on a chat, and I replied, and which means I probably was rolling my eyes because couldn't see me. Hashtag could be schlock. Hashtag skip the pornography. Um, but I said, well, you know, I think that's a pretty standard male female divide. And as I was saying that, I was realizing that it's really fallen out of fashion to say that, because a lot of women have reclaimed enjoying watching pornography and that they are visually stimulated. And you know, and also trying to get away from the binary, you know, and this is a very binary thing. At the same time, I think that it tends to be largely true. There are, of course, exceptions to every rule, and we're not talking about a binary, but a spectrum. But when you plot it out on like the bell curve or what have you, that for the male brain, visual stimulation tends to be like one of the primary erotic inciters, right? Whereas for the very female brain, we tend to want a story. And this really did just hit home in this conversation, that it's like, that is part of why women love romance novels and love reading spicy stories, because it is, um, we want that story, we want the emotional context, and we want that waxing and waning of the sexual tension and so forth. um, so and I think that's why, and I don't really, this may be TMI, sorry, I really don't watch pornography. It doesn't do much for me, oddly enough. There I am with my female brain, right? But when I have watched pornography, one of the things I really miss about it, and it could be that this was like old pornography, and maybe it's gotten much better. Maybe there's good stuff these days, but that was what I missed about it, is like that there was no story. That it's kind of like the Boogie Nights model, where you know Mark Wahlberg walks into the office for the job interview, and Julianne Moore is like, "Well, I really need to see the goods," and then they start banging on the desk, and it's like, okay, but I don't know anything about these characters. I want to know, like, why does he want this job, and why is she so desperate that she'll? Well, I mean, he is Mark Wahlberg, and he's incredibly well hung. And I should probably put a disclaimer on this particular podcast, but you know what I'm saying? So it's like, at the same time, though, I feel very strongly that sex scenes shouldn't be in a story only for titillation. And and I've had that recent epiphany. Now I understand scrambled eggs. That if you all want me to explain that at some point, I will. I think a lot of you longtime listeners know. But, I had that epiphany about fight scenes, and why so many people think that writing fight scenes is like writing sex scenes. And I'm like, no, no, it's totally different types of writing. And I think it's because a lot of people write fight scenes for the excitement, which is a different kind of titillation. Um, so like, are the sex scenes there for titillation? For me, they're there because they're part of the story and the character. But I could see, I do understand better now after having this conversation, why some of my male readers feel like they don't really want to read the sex scenes, not because they view it as pornographic or offensive, but that they are on some level boring. Which, and that was what this guy was saying yesterday. Like, what this one particular scene, he said that he could recognize that it was very hot. He was talking about the scene in the Arcanium, for those who know, that he could sort of like recognize on an objective level that it was hot, but it was also sort of like, okay, okay, let's get through this for him. So interesting, huh? So it would be, I was going to say it would be interesting to do a convention panel about this, but I don't know. What would we say after we said that? It does seem like a good answer to the a perennial question that seems to be posed to female writers, is like, what do you do to um, satisfy and attract your male readers? Which my answer is usually, I don't care. I do value my male readers, and it's interesting to have conversations with them, but I don't care if men read my books or not, which some people find really upsetting. And it's like, well, you know, read or don't read, people. It's supposed to be for fun. That's what I think. On that note, I think I will tap out. Hope you all have a wonderful Tuesday, and I will talk to you on Thursday. You all take care. Bye bye.